Boker Tov. Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Kuf Mem Gimel in Baba Basra. May all the boys come home safely. May everybody be protected. We're down about 17 lines down on the page, roughly 15, 17 lines. Amalei Rav Mordechai, beginning of a line. Amalei Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi. Now again, we haven't yet. We've discussed this whole topic of can you mazaka for an Uber? Can you give something to an Uber? And yesterday we had Rabbi Yochanan's opinion, who says you cannot, but you could do it to your own child because your own child, you're more giving, you're closer to your own child. So as long as the baby is in embryo form, babies, let's say if an embryo past 40 days, since conception, then a father could do that to his son, give it to his son because his mind is towards the son, but not, you can't be mazaket to somebody who's going to be born in the future. You can't tell your wife, I'm going to give this to my children who are going to be born. We're getting married now. There's nobody even conceived yet. That doesn't work. But we're going to see now, who do we pass? Yesterday it was actually the top of yesterday's daf. We had three machlokes. Rav Huda says, Mazak is never kona, maybe except for your own kid. Or our Mishnah said either because it's a shchimera or because it's your own kid, right? Yeah, and Rav, and according to Rav Huna, if it's somebody else's kid, you can't even give it even when he's born. Even can't give it now for when he's born. Rav Nachman says Mazakar below kana, but if you say I'm giving it to this child when he will be born, can't acquire it now, but when he will be born, yes. And Rav Huna says Af kashelo kana, even when he's born, you can't do it. So Rav Huna is the most machmir, right? And Rav Shesha says echazeh kana, you could give it to an Uber. So there we have this machlokas. We said that an Uber does inherit, like we had the case of Rav Yossi, where Cohen died and left his wife pregnant. The baby inside is a czar, and because of the baby inside who's a czar, who owns the food, only a Cohen can give the mother, a child Cohen can give the mother and the avadim to eat, but not a czar, and therefore he can't eat. So we see that a baby does inherit. Okay, a baby does inherit, but inherit comes automatically, as opposed to giving something to somebody, giving it to a unborn child. Again, Rav Shesha says you could do it, right? Rav Huna says you can't do it at all, even for when he's born later on. Maybe Rav Huna would make an exception with a child, the man's own child. And Rav Nachman, we'll see the psak halacha. Rav Nachman says mizakar l'belo kana, but if you give it to the baby, you're mizakah for the baby. Let's say giving it to the mother or to somebody else, mizakah for the baby for when he will be born. According to Rachman, that works, and we'll see we pass like Rav Nachman. So we're at the spot, like I say, 15, 17 lines down on the page. Amar lei Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi. Maser Rav Avi has a kasha on this idea. What idea are we speaking about here? We said yesterday that at the end of yesterday's daf, we said that you can't give something to children who aren't even conceived yet, children who will be born later on. So what happened was a man said, I'm going to give something to my children later on, after they're born. Later on, he's giving it to them. And then the son who was born already, let's say from a different wife, he had an older son, a teenager, said, what about me? So he said, you can have like those kids. Those kids can't get, right? So what's the question? So we had a question, we had a machlokas here. You're going to get like those kids. Well, those kids aren't going to get. Are you going to get something besides those kids? Or are you going to get something? And just like those kids won't get, you won't get either. They will all get the Yerusha eventually. We're talking here about a gift. So we had a machlokas. Does this teenage kid get or not? And we said that we came out that no, he doesn't get. Why? Because this is like, I'm giving something, I guess I'm giving, you're going to acquire this like the donkey will get it. Kni kachamor, like the donkey. Well, the donkey can't acquire anything. The donkey is an animal. So therefore you don't get anything. So they said, what about if he says, you and the chamor will get? I'm giving you something, you and the chamor, giving it to you and the donkey. So we had a three of machlokas over here too. What happens? Rav Nachman said he gets half. Rav Nuna says he doesn't get anything, just like the chamor doesn't get. He doesn't get anything either. Rav Shesha says no, he gets everything. Since the chamor doesn't get, obviously I say you and the chamor, so you'll get everything because the chamor can't get it. Three-way machlokas. Okay. And Rav Sheshes tried to bring a proof that he says you get everything from a different case, but we didn't, we sort of slug up that proof. Amalei Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi, he says a kasha on this now. He says you get everything. Maser Rav Avi Tufta, Rav Avi asked a kasha. Ma'aseh Moshe, some famous story. There were 5 women, ben shtechers. Among the 5 women, 3 of them were just, women. They were not related. 2 of the 5 were sisters. And a man went and gathered a basket full of figs. I said, belonged to the women themselves, but it was Shemitah. If it's Shemitah, what's the halach with the payers? It's all hefker. So therefore, you can acquire from hefker. So number 1, and he was from Ba'amar, and he said, you're all married to me. All you 5, use 5. Let's talk like a New Yorker. Use 5 people, use 5 women are all married to me. I'm giving you Bikal Galazos with this basket of fruits. The Kibbulah, and one of them accepted it, one of them accepted on behalf of all 5. So you see many halachas over here. The Gemara over there in Kedushin says, number 1, you see you can Mekadosh with Peirush Shvius. Number 2, it's only because it belonged to them, it wasn't stolen. You can't be Mekadosh somebody with stolen goods. You also see that one person can be Mekadosh it on behalf of the other ones. But how does that work? 2 of them were sisters. You can't marry 2 sisters. So what does it say? Amru Chachamim said, Ein achayis mukadashas. The 2 sisters don't get married. Now, why is that? Right? Achayis hu dein mukadashas. The sisters aren't. There's no condition for them. Now, what happens here is this: if you marry somebody, you can never marry her sister unless your wife died. Right? You can't marry 2 sisters during lifetime. So because if you're married to one, you're married to Leah, you can't marry Rachel. Let's say you say, I'm marrying both of you simultaneously. Well, it can't work. Why? Because that's what's called Kedushin Sheinim Sarlabiyah. Who are you going to live with? You can't marry either one because you're not sure you're sort of married to the other one, right? So you don't know. It's impossible. Married one before the other. Now, how does that work? How can you marry 2 of them simultaneously at the same split second, like this case, where let's say you gave the father the ring or the money, and I'm marrying your 2 daughters simultaneously. Can't work. That's the Kedusha James, the Kedusha Nachal. But he says over there, okay, those 2 aren't married, but the other ones are Mekudashas, are married. Biamai, at v'chamori. Isn't that also the case of you and the chamor? We said before here, at v'chamor, right? At v'chamor, I'm giving something to you and the donkey, right? So we had a 3 of machlokas. Does he get half? Does he get nothing, or does he get everything? So why should that work? Why should the other, in other words, the 2 sisters, it can't work for the 2 sisters because you can't marry 2 sisters simultaneously. So therefore neither Kedushin works. But for the other ones, it does work. So out of the 5 girls, 3 work and 2 can't work. So what do you see? When 2 can't work, that's like the chamor. You can't give something to the chamor. You can't acquire anything. The other ones work. So what do you see? That it does work, right? V'amai at v'chamori. So you see over here that how can you say that at v'chamor doesn't work at all? You and the chamor doesn't work at all, like Rav Munus's law or klum, right? Or Rav Sheshes. Here you see that it does work. At v'chamor says Rashbam. Let's see where's the Rashbam? Enachas Mukdashis. Ma'inachas Mukdashis v'at v'chamoru. I'm right at where the lines get wide now. These also shouldn't work. You see from here, you see, you get everything. Whatever you can acquire, you can acquire. In other words, here are the possibilities. You get everything. Rav Sheshes says, Rav Sheshes is the one who said on the 5th line of this page, when you say you and the chamor get it, you get everything because the chamor can't get anything. So this is a raya against Rav Hamnuna, who says you don't get anything. And it's even against Rav Nachman, who says you get half, because you don't say you get half. You don't say half the money is required. You say, I'm giving this basket of fruits to use 5, you 5 women. The 2 can't work, the other ones work. So everything goes for those 3 women who it does work for. So it's a proof that it's a proof like Rav Sheshes. This is as Rashbam says in the first of the wide lines on the page. So the it's a proof to Rav Sheshes against the other ones. Amalei back in the Gemara. Hainu the Chazoi. So he answered him. What was this discussion? Rav Mordechai said this to Rav Ashi. Right, the Rav Avi asked this question. So he says, "Oh, now I understand." Hainu the Chazoi, Rav Avnuna bar Avi b'chama. I saw Rav Huna bar Avi in my dream. We dream about shtuyot. The rabbis dreamt about seeing other rabbis. He says, now I understand why I saw Rav Huna bar Avi in my dream. By the most Rav Avi Tufta, because Rav Avi asked the kasha on because you brought down this kasha that Rav Avi asked. But I'll tell you the answer. Very simple. You know why over there? That's not a case of at v'chamor. It's not a case, I'm marrying you five, and it only can work on three. So why did you say, since it doesn't work on the other two, it doesn't work on the three, like lo or klum, or it works on half, maybe only get half the basket or 3/5 of the basket. It doesn't say that. It says they get the whole basket, the three that it works for get the basket. So it's a proof that at v'chamor works, you get everything, like Rav Shesha says. Gemara, no, that's not a case where he said you five. He said, I'm giving kedushin to whichever among you it can work. Remember, Torah, you can marry as many women as, many women. I shouldn't marry too many, but you can marry several women simultaneously. So when he said to you five, he didn't say I'm marrying all you five. He said, I'm marrying you, whoever it can work for. Obviously, if any of you are sisters, that's not going to work for you. He says, whoever is Roy, whoever I could have bia with, Tiskadishli. You can't have bia with the two sisters, either of the two sisters, because maybe you're married to both of them. So it's kedushin shenim surim labia. It's not even a kedushin, because it doesn't work at all. It's not like you're married to both of them. You can't marry two of them at the same time. Kedushin is not tofes, right? Right? If you're married to one person, not only that you cannot marry the other person. If you try to marry the second sister, it's not going to work. Kedushin does not work, and you can't live with her either. It's Sarkaris. So if you're not married two of them simultaneously, since you can't have bia with either one, it's not a kedushin. Okay, now we say here, we came out, probably the halacha is like Rav Nachman, who says you get half. In other words, I'm giving my estate, there are people who leave their estate to their horse or their, or their dog or whatever, or they want to be buried in their Cadillac. There's all kinds of crazy things. When a man says, I'm giving you and the donkey my estate, so if Nachman says you get half and the donkey gets half, obviously the donkey can't acquire, so that'll be left to the Yerusha. Those words are meaningless, but he gets half, right? You and the donkey, not you and the donkey get nothing or you get everything. Like Rav Nachman said, kana machzor. Here Rashbam says, take a look at Rashbam in the third of the wide lines. Divrei Maschil hara'uyu mikem. Got it? The third of the wide, hara'uyu mikem. So the sisters aren't included at all. He didn't even try to marry the sisters. He only married. That's how Rabbi explains something there. You get half. And also, we also like Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman usually that we have many times. La halacha is like Rav Nachman bedini. That's a general principle throughout Shas. That when it comes to dinim, not isurim but dinim, the halacha is like Rav Nachman. And also like shetele kana. So back on Kuf Membe's Amid Aleph at the top of the page where we had Rav Huna says Afshetei Lo Kana. Rav Nachman Mazakulu below Kana like Shetei Lit Kana. Right? Rav Nachman says it does work. Rav Huna like Afshetei Lo Kana Shesham Rechasev Kana. So he passed like Rav Nachman, even though the Rambam Seichen over there is on Rav Huna. So in Gos Maimonides, who explains the Rambam, he says no, that we don't paskin like Rav Huna, but he paskins like Rav Nachman. So that's the psak. Rashbam paskins that way, and apparently the Rambam would hold that way too. That we hold like Rav Nachman. The Mazak a little bit low kana, but if you say you can't give it to the child, to the embryo, while he's what do they call in utero, that doesn't work. But if you give it to him so that it's his when he's born, that would work. Because he is ba'olam. It's not a double shame ba'olam. He is ba'olam. The baby's inside. The baby's there, but he can't acquire it now. But you can give it to him. You can give it to him via somebody else that they will acquire it for him when he's born. So we pass him like Rav Nachman ad b'chmar, you get half, and we pass him like a little bit kshetei l'kon like Rav Nachman Pirshu Benachem. Okay, that's important. That's the psak. Back in the Gemara story. A man told his wife, I'm giving my assets to you and to my sons. Now, just assume now that we're talking about, maybe he was dying or whatever, but he gave it to his wife. Now, a wife, as we said, normally does not inherit a husband. We'll talk about a case where it does work out that way, but that's really not because she's the wife, but rather because she gets the Yerush for some other reason. We'll see. But a man told his wife, I'm giving my assets to you and to my sons. Now, let's say she had 5 sons with him. They had 5 children. Does that mean she gets 1/6? Or does that mean she gets half? Amar Yosef, she gets half. When I say you and the others, you get half, they get half. Amar Yosef ben Amila, we'll see that's a psak of Rav Yosef ben Amila. How do I know? The Tanya, Rabbi Yomer, when they come to dividing up the lechem upon him, or the shtel lechem on Shavuos, That's what the Rabbi says. When he says, I give it to you and to them, you get half, they get half. That's different because Aaron is also a Kohen. So he's capable of getting a share. Therefore, the Torah says, you and the Kohen and the other and your children, to show you get half and they get half. But Isha la basurusha, a woman does not inherit from her husband. So therefore, since she's not roifet, she's only getting a gift. So So Abaya said, it's enough that she should get like one of the kids, meaning if there's 5 kids and her, so they divide it 6 ways. Okay, that's what Abaya's protest was, but that's not the halacha. There was a story in our Dor like this, where a man gave something, he gave assets to his wife and to the children. Shmuel said she gets half. Similarly, that was Shmuel, who was the Mardaser in our Dor. In Tveria, which is in Eretz Yisrael, as we know, Rav Yochanan was the Mardaser in Israel. Rav Yochanan also said, give her half. There's another story. When he came from Eretz Yisrael, the king sometimes he ruled that his new crown that should be paid for by certain citizens. So he said the Abule and the Struge, different interpretations of what they are. Rashbam says Abule are the rich people and the Strububi are the officers. Okay, so he said the rich people and the officers should raise the money for my new crown. Amar Rebbe, Nisfu Abule Palga, Struge Palga, half and half. So you see, there also is a proof that when he says on these and on these, it's 50-50. Gemara says that's no proof. How can you compare from there? Normally, when he told the rich people to give it have a kosve, he would normally have a kosve. Normally, when he would ask for a donation, he would ask the rich people. This Dragui have Messiah Badai, and the officers would also accompany and help them and aid in the collection. The other Malka, the king knew that they were helping them. So Hashda might have cost this now that he wrote Abulev Struga, it's because he already knew they were helping anyway. So why did he write this Dragui also? The main Dahani Palga. That's different because he said, they were helping anyway. So why did he specify them right now and specifically say they should also be included to show that it's 50-50? So it's not a strong proof from there. But from the other cases, we see that when a man says, yeah, I'm giving you half and the children, I'm giving you and the children my assets, I'm dividing among you and the children, it means half and half. Masr of Zera. Now we have another case. So maybe that's not the case. Masr of Zera. Homer Real Mincha. I want to bring a flour offering in the base of Mikdash. Mea Isaron, 100 Isaron, 100 measures. So what do you do? Lahavi B'shnei Kalim. He has to bring it in 2 Kalim. Right? He says, Real Mincha Mea Isaron, and I'll bring it in 2 Kalim. How does he do it? Maybe Shishim B'Kliyach. He brings 60 in 1 Kli. For Arbon B'Kliyach, 60 is the maximum you can put in 1 Kli in the base of Mikdash. That's the max. That based on the size of the Kli, you can't put it anymore. Otherwise, it wouldn't mix well with the oil. So he says, when he says, I'm bringing a big mincha, a dava of 100 isaron, I'm going to bring it in 2 kalim. He has to bring 60 and 40. 60 in 1 Kli, 40 in another. Vim Hevi, says the Gemara on Amid Beis. Vim Hevi Chamishim B'Kliyach B'Chamishim. Let's say he split it 50-50. Yotza, he's Yotze. He could do it that way. He could do 50-50, but not l'chadchila. So what do you see? That it's not when you say I'm doing it in 2 kalim, it doesn't always, when I say I'm giving it to you, to this and to this, it doesn't always mean 50-50. 50-50 is only b'di'evet. But the chadchila here, it's supposed to be 60-40. So maybe in the other cases also, when you're giving something to this one and to this one, it doesn't mean 50-50. Maybe that's what it means. The Gemara says, look, and the chadchila says, no, whenever you're giving 2 things or to 2 people or putting it in 2 things, palgo, even you should be able to do 50-50. Why does it say you should do 60-40? But if you do 50-50 is okay. What do you mean? Whenever you say 2 things, it should be 50-50. So you can't compare. Obviously, this man, normally a mincha is only 1 isar, 2 asronas, wherever, as many asronas as there are, but not 100. Obviously, this man was in a generous mood and wanted to bring to the base of Mikdash a mincha of 100. The reason he said it's in 2 kalim, the other, the lefsher, he knew that it's impossible. You can't put 100 in 1 kli. So as much as I can put in 1, I'll do. So therefore, it's different over there because there he says I would put 100 in 1 kli. Why did he say 2 kem? Because I know you can only put 60. So therefore 60 l'chadchil, you can put 60 in one, 40 in the other. If you had 50-50, it's also okay. But it's not the same case as when I'm giving it to 2 different entities. He's saying, I'm giving you and you this, and I'm giving this to you and you. It means 50-50 normally, right? But over here, it's different because he really would have done it all in one. The hilchos like a basar and lachos like Rabbi Yosef. Besada inyan machsa. What are these 3 cases that throughout Shas we have that klal hilchos like basar Rabbi Yosef besada? Sada is a case back on Yud Beis where a man knew that his father was maybe dying, and he bought an estate. He bought an estate next to his father's estate, and then when his father died and he split it with his brothers, he said, "Well, give me the estate from the father that's next to my land." I like it. And they answered him. They said, "Well, you picked the best one. We're not going to give you the best one." I said, "So Allah is like Rabbi Yosef there. That's a valid claim. You picked the best one. You put it. You dafka planned this because you wanted it next to the best field that our father had. That's not fair." So we pass like Rabbi Yosef there. Inyan is an issue when can Bezdin retract, when they can retract their opinion. Is it when they stand up that they can no longer retract it, like when they finish the session of the Bezdin, or when they change topics? So is it when they change topics, the inyan, they went from one inyan to another? Rabbi Yosef says when they change topics, they can no longer retract their first opinion. Umachza, this case over here, when you say I'm giving it to you and to you, I'm giving it to you and to them, it means 50-50. We pass Rabbi Yosef here too. Hahu d'shara piski d'shura lebeisei. A man was out of town, and he sent by a messenger or whatever. He sent strips of silk, nice silk, to his family. Who did he mean to give it to? If it's like men's kind of silk, like it's a men's garment, give it to the boys. Obviously, if what was fit for he didn't send along a note specifying which piece went to whom. So obviously, if the ones that were fit for boys, divide among the boys, one for the girls, one was for Loman. This that you give to the girls is only if the girls are married and the less like Kalsa, he doesn't have a daughter-in-law. If he has a daughter-in-law and his daughters are already married, he meant to give it to his daughter-in-law, right? If his daughters aren't married, then he wouldn't leave his daughters and give it to the daughter-in-law. He meant to give it, if the daughters were married, he meant to give it to them. But if his daughters were married, so his they were supposed to be now supported by their husbands, not by him once they're married, right? That's the way it normally works. Or she supports him, as the case may be. Mushar al-Kalse said, okay, so he wouldn't leave his daughters, and if his daughters aren't married, he would certainly give it to them. Man said, I'm giving my assets to my sons. Again, in all these cases, we're talking about where he's giving it as a gift. So here Rashbam says, a man who is dying, and we don't know what he meant. Like in the case before with the silk garments, he sent it from far away. We don't know what he meant. Here a man was on his deathbed, and he said, I'm giving it to my sons. He only had one son. Havali Bro Barsi, he had a son and a daughter. What did he mean by that? Now he's dead, let's say. We don't know. He said, I'm giving this to my sons. He had one son and one daughter. What do you mean? So what do you do? Mikar Insha Lebrab, and would he also call his daughter his sons? And therefore he meant to give it to her as a gift, right? Right? But Karl Insha Lebrab and right? Odilma, right? So maybe he meant to say, right? Odilma, lo Karl Insha Lebrab, and maybe he wouldn't call his son. In other words, the question on his side would me Karu. No, I said it wrong. Mi Karu Inshi Lebrab Banai. He only had one son, right? Would he call one son sons? Not would he call his daughters sons. He said, my sons, not my daughters. What do you mean when he said, I'm giving this to my sons? Maybe he meant one son, and he's giving everything to him. And therefore, why did he give him everything now? Because, like in the parentheses, he puts that in, he takes it out, but the idea is the same, that he meant to take the daughters away from the Isra Nechasim. What's Isra Nechasim? One of the Tanai Ksubas is, or it's like understood, the sons get the Yerusha, but the daughters have to get food, right? If the daughters are older, they get 1/10 of his assets towards their dowry, towards their marriage, to pay for the wedding. So maybe he meant to give everything to the sons before he died, so there'll be no Yerusha. So, and when he said, I'm giving it to my sons, even though there was only one son, did he mean to give him everything? Brand doesn't call, if man has only one son, he wouldn't call sons. So when he said sons, he meant his children, and she would also get. Maybe he went to give his daughter a gift. So he meant to say, look, I'm going to divide up my assets right now, which is what people should do, right? Before they die. And if he had a son and a daughter, split it. You get half and you get half. That's it, right? Maybe that's what he meant to do. Amar Abaya. So let's try to bring a proof. Tashma ubnei Dan Chushim, right? What does it say there? The sons of Dan was Chushim. Sounds like there was only one son, Chushim. And it says bnei Dan. So you see that a person calls even one son, sons, my sons, even though there was only one son, he says in plural sons, and therefore the daughter wouldn't get anything. Amalei Rava, no. Maybe Becheskia learns Pshat in Bnei Dan Chushim, Sheim Reuben Kechushim, that he has many sons. The Bnei Dan, the sons of Dan, were so numerous that they were like the leaves of a reed, or some say other parts of a reed, whatever. It means that there were many of them. Maybe that's what it meant. Shegdelim harbe biyachad. Rashbam says hinami olei kanamo kisha, or knots of a reed. In other words, maybe he meant to say not Chushim was his name, that the sons of Dan was Chushim, meaning there's only one son. No, Chushim was a description, was a noun saying that there were many, like there was a reed. Amalei Rava, Dilma Keratana Bechizkia, maybe like Bechizkia, Shaim Reuben Chushim, Kechushim Shel Kana, like the number of leaves in a reed. So that doesn't prove that you call one son in a plural lashon of sons. Elam Rav, I'll bring you a proof here. Ubnei Palu Eliyav. It says very clearly the sons of Palu were Eliyav. There's only one son. So you see that sometimes you only have one son. It's called sons. So when he said over here, I'm giving my sons all my assets, he meant only his son, and the daughter wouldn't get anything. Because again, if he died and it was a Yerusha, the daughters would be entitled to mazonos, they'd be entitled to marriage dowry, etc. Yosef Amar, Ubnei Eson Azariah. Another pasuk in Daf Yomi says, Ubnei Eson, who were the sons of Eson Azariah, even though it was only one. So you see that that one son is also called sons. Man said here, my assets are to my sons. Havle Bra, he had a son, Ubabra, and a grandson. So, does he mean also he's giving it to his son and his grandson? Oh, no, or not. So, sometimes people call, like we say, B'nai Banim Harein Kabanim. So when he said, I'm giving it to my sons, he only had one son and one grandson. He meant this grandson too. A man does not call his grandson his sons. Halachically, B'nai Banim Harein Kabanim, in terms of Pruvu, in terms of different rules, in terms of Yibum, in terms of a lot of ideas, B'nai Banim Harein Kabanim, right? My grandmother, when her husband, my grandfather, died at the age of 39, and she had 5 sons. So my great grandfather went to the Rebbe and was crying to the Rebbe that he lost his son. My great grandfather was alive. Rav David Schreibman was alive, and he lost his son, Rav Meir, at the age of 39. But my grandfather who died left 5 sons. My father, Olav Shalom, was the last of the 5. So he complained to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, B'nai Banim Harein Kabanim. You lost a son, but you have grandsons. B'nai Banim Harein Kabanim. But when a man's giving his assets and he says, I'm giving it to my sons, and he had a son and a grandson, did he mean to give it to the grandsons too? Ma'abarash says, no. Lokar in Shilababra. Halachically, if he said, I'm giving it to my sons, he meant his sons, not his grandson. Tani Kavas and Ma'abarashi approved him. Hamudar Name Banim, if a man makes a netter that he's not going to have an order from his sons, Mutu B'nai Banim, he's allowed to have an order from the grandson. So you see that the man says sons, he means only sons, not grandsons. Says the Mishnah. A man left an estate, and he left older sons and little children, underage children, and they didn't split up the Yerusha yet. The older sons were managing the estate, and it improved. So he split it. When they come to split it, they split it all equally. In other words, even though they put in the effort, the older sons, everybody shares it equally. Let's say the older son said, listen, we want to split it up. Yes, we all own it together now. It's time, I want to split it up. And they said it to the Edom or to the Bezdin, but nothing ever got done. Bezdin was lazy and didn't take care of it. Look what my father says. We want to do with our own. Let's split it up. Everybody go their own way. Look what my father. We want to work for ourselves and eat our own the fruits of our own labor, and let the other children, everybody have their own share. If they're little children, let there be an apotropos for them. We don't want to take care of their assets. Then if they improved it, then they improve on it. In other words, if the older son, let's say there was one older son and one younger son, the older son, I don't want to work for him. I want to split it up. But they didn't split it up. And he worked and he put in his own effort, etc. He gets to keep his improvement. Whatever he improved, he gets to improve it because he improved it for himself. He says, I want to split it up. They don't want to split it up. I'm not going to make an effort for them. If a woman improved in a chassan, like Mar's going to say, what is a woman doing with the Yerusha? Right? A wife doesn't get Yerusha. We'll see. Again, if she improved, if she didn't say, I want to split it up, then they share it equally. If she says, let's say she was an almana and her husband left the ksuba, and she says, look, give me my ksuba. I want my money and I want to go on. And they didn't give it to her. They didn't assign it yet to her. I want to fix. I don't want to take care of these children. Maybe they're not even her children. Then when an improvement that she made, she gets to keep it herself. Amar of Chaviva, Berei of Yosef. Chaviva said in the name of Yosef, Berei Rava. Okay, so Rav Chaviva, the son of Yosef, the grandson of Rava, Mishmei Rav said in his grandfather's name. See that they learned the grandfather's Talmud limud also. This that we say that they if they worked and they didn't split it up yet, the older brother, let's say, put his efforts and fixed the estate, they all split it up. That's only if he improved it from the assets themselves. In other words, he took money in the estate. Now he didn't take his own money. He improved. In other words, he took money from the estate or land from the estate, and he hired workers, etc., based on the money of the estate. Then you split it. But if he put his own money in there, he hired his own laborers, he paid for it. Then then he keeps it of himself. Aini, is that the case? If the father only left him over a pit with water and it's covered, Haschar lemsa, you get to keep it. The schar lemsa. V'odaini the machmas atzmo. Odaini when he fixes it, and Odaini when there's no. What are you doing with a pit of water? You're renting it out. You're letting people use their water, and you're doing it. The older children are guarding it, right? They're guarding it, and they're saying, okay, we'll take rent, and you get to use it now, and you get to use it later, etc. So he's doing it with his own effort, and still you say that they split the profits with all the children, even the younger children too. Says no, shiny dine. It's different in the case of a pit with a cover. All you need is guarding it. So they could all do it. So that's different over there. He didn't do it with his own assets. He did it with the assets. It's like using the nechasim themselves, which the children could do too. He didn't put his own money into it, and therefore the profits are shared among all the children. Amru, they said, if the older son says, like use the example with one son, right? If the older son said, listen, look what the father left the estate, I want my share and I'll go my own way and I work for myself, and then he improved it, because he demanded a split and they didn't split it. And he used his own money to improve it, right? That's what we said. This is we say that they split it down the middle is if he did it from the assets of the estate, but if he used his own money, he gets to keep it. Or if he said, listen, let's split it up, and they didn't split it up. If he says, let's split it up, and they didn't split it up, so what happens there? Rashbam says, right, he said it there. So if he could either if he used his own assets, or if he complained and said, I want to split it up, even if he used the assets of the estate, says, listen, I'm fixing it, I'm doing the work, etc. I'm doing it for myself. You don't want to split it. I'm not going to work for you. Then he gets to keep it. Rav Safra, now the story happened like this. Rav Safra, Shavak Avu Azuze. Rav Safra's father left him over some cash, money. And Shaklin, Rav Safra was a Talmud Chacham. He took the money, Avad Buiskim, and he did some buying and selling. Not hard labor in the field, but he did buying and selling, and which was relatively easy. Asu Achi, his brothers came to Avu Bedina. They complained, they sued him in court, and they protested. They claimed from him in court. Kamei Derabba. They said, look, you took money from the estate and you improved it. We want to get a share of the profits. Amr Lahu, so Rav answered, listen, Rav Safra is a great rabbi. He's not going to stop learning to work for you. Obviously, he meant to work for himself, and it was simple work. It wasn't like he did a lot of extra labor. Rashbam says in the first of the narrow lines, right there, he took the money he didn't take his own money and invested. He took he took assets from the estate and improved it, so they should also be entitled to it. There's no, he didn't have to invest anything. It was just took cash. He took the cash from the estate and he was buying and selling. So they said, no, it's as if he said, I want my share, right? Even though he didn't say, I want my share, still he's entitled to keep the profits because he was not going to go work. He's not going to stop learning in order, to open up a store and work for you. He just took what was necessary for him. And therefore, even though he didn't say anything, Rashbam says, if you have a great rabbi, he didn't say, I'm working for myself. And he also, I'm working for myself. It's as if he said it because he's not going to bother working for you. He wants to sit and learn all day. So he worked a little bit, but he was working for himself, even though he didn't say anything. So the Mishnah said, if a woman improves it, chasam again, whether it's a man or a woman, if the estate wasn't split up and it wasn't demanded it be split up, and you work from the assets of the nechasim, you split the profits. What does it do? What does the Isha have assets anyway for? She's not entitled to the assets over here. She's not getting. Who gets the Yerusha when a man dies? His children, not the wife. So what's she doing here? We're speaking about a woman who inherits. What are we speaking here about? Rashbam gives this example. Reuven married Shimon's daughter. Reuven and Shimon are brothers. Married Shimon's daughter. Now, Reuben and Shimon are both dead now, right? We're both dead now. And Reuben, right? Shimon, Reuben's wife, Shimon's daughter. Reuben and Shimon are both dead. And now Yaakov died. Let's say. And who gets the Yerusha? The children. There were no children. Reuben and Shimon are both dead. Who's there? Shimon's daughter. Oh, so she's getting an only daughter. She's an only daughter. Or Rashbam says, right, or she had sisters, she's splitting it with them. This is the woman that we're speaking about. What does she get a Yerusha? Because she's also entitled to the Yerusha, even though she's getting Reuven's share also with the other Yisomis. Maybe she's one of several sisters or maybe Reuven had some sons, but she's getting Shimon's share. Remember, Reuven and Shimon are both heirs of Yaakov. So therefore she's also involved over here. So we're saying whether it's a man or a woman in the Yerusha, she's also, the same rules apply. If she's dealing with the estate on behalf of all of them, and she's fixing it up from the estate, she's got to split it with all of them, unless she protests, unless she says, right? If she says, then it goes on. The Mishnah said, if she says, look what my husband left me. Now the husband left me is not so much mashma like that case. So the goes habachin from Rashbam, it's also mashma. There it's speaking about where she's talking about her ksuba. My husband left me ksuba, but there's not enough to go around, and I want to collect it. So if they didn't split it up and she worked on it, she's entitled to the assets. Of course, she's not being fed then, because the woman is entitled to get your mizonos, etc. Kolzman, she hasn't collected her ksuba. If she collected her ksuba, then it's goodbye. You got your share and get out. If she gets either remarried or she collects her old ksuba. So that's what he says over here. That that's the second part. I skipped ahead to the next few lines. I missed it. First of all, let's go back to Isha b'nechsi yisomei maya vidita. She's inheriting, like let's say in the case where Reuben married Shimon's daughter. Reuben and Shimon are both dead, and they're now collecting the Yerusha of Yaakov, the grandfather. So that's why she has a claim over here. She's getting the estate as the Yoreshes, as the daughter of Shimon. So it's obvious. What's the difference if it's a man or a woman? That's what you said before. If she's working on behalf of the estate, they split it up. Since a woman doesn't normally work on the estate because they usually work. Even if she didn't say, I want to split it up, I want to get my share, commode the parish dummy, because why would she do this? A woman doesn't normally work on the estate, usually leave it to the men to do that. But since she did it, as if she said, I would like my share, Kamashmali, we don't say that. Whether it's a man or a woman on the estate and they're still working the estate and they didn't ask for it to be split up, and they use the money of the estate to improve it, it all gets split up. The improvements and the profits are all split up equally. Here's what the Mishnah said at the end, and this is like an almana, according to Rashbama and the Gosabach. If you look, this is what my husband left me. I would like to get my own share. Then if she said I would like my own share, and they didn't give her share, so whatever she improved that, if she give her share, obviously she's off on her own. But over here, it's like when she asked for it and they didn't give it to her, then she also gets to keep the profits, just like in the case of the man. So again, treat isn't obvious. Mao is saying keeping the shvicha milsa, since she is praised by working on the estate for everybody. The Amri Katarcha Kame asked me, look, she's working on behalf of the Yisomim. What a wonderful tzaddikus of a woman. She's doing all this work on behalf of the Yisomim. I might think achule achla, that she's mochel her that she doesn't get all the profits. Rashbam says in the Divrei Mascha achule machla v'chazra ba'mimasha amra. She retracts what she said. Tchila, what she said the first already. In other words, she said, give me my share. I want to be off on my own. I'm not working for these Yisomim. So so she gets her share, and she doesn't have to split the profits that she makes on her investment. Isn't it obvious? No, I might think since she will be praised by the community for saying, look at this wonderful woman that she's working on behalf of the Yisomim, that achule achla, she's mochel. In other words, she's mochel, and she splits the profits with all of them, and she retracts, like Rashbam says, from what she said before, I want to split it and get my own share and go my own way. Kamashmon, we don't say that. Since she said, I want my share, she stays with that, I want my share. And if they didn't split it up, if the court or whoever's in charge didn't split it up and she improved it, she gets to keep her profits and she doesn't split it with them. So tomorrow's Gemara will pick up from here. Amr of Chanina, Daf Kuf Mendal will pick it up from here on the podcast. And on Sunday, Meretz Hashem, we'll start on the fourth line on Kuf Mem Hey. Shabbos' Daf will take you up to there. On the fourth line on Daf Kuf Mem Hey, Lema Tunuli Bali Ves Machimo tonight. Let's say this case that we were discussing is a machlokas tonight. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat Shalom, Sorot Tovot, Kol Tuv.